Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Deeper than music radio. Behind every great song, there's an even greater story. I'd like to say what's up to everybody listening to us on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Spotify, Amazon, and we're now on YouTube. Today, we have a very special guest, our first voiceover actress, voiceover actor, period. Also, author and actress and producer, writer as well. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Ashley Hargrove here on Deeper Than Music. How you doing?
Doing good. Ready for some Christmas turkey.
Oh yeah, me too. Yeah, we're the holidays is like in the next couple of days. Well, Christmas in the next couple of days. My first question: you're from Norfolk, Virginia. I am a Navy brat and also a Navy veteran. My sister was born in Norfolk. Okay, that was my
That's
question.
how I
So
ended up
you
in
come from a
Norfolk. I was a Navy child.
okay, all right. Then yeah, same background. Yeah, because we lived in Norfolk when I was 3. My sister was born there, and now I'm Navy vet. So okay, that's what I.
It was a popular base in the 80s for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and now I'm actually south. I'm in North Carolina, so south. I think I'll say I'm like 4 hours south of Norfolk, Virginia Beach. First question: how do you balance it all? Doing you do so much.
Well, and the crazy part is too, for a while, I was even working a full-time job doing cybersecurity. So trying to balance it, you had no choice. My advice to people on it is I made sure I kept like detailed schedules throughout the day.
Yeah,
And I always carried like even, see if I can find it. I'm very old school where I still carry these regular planners with me in bags. So
yeah.
that way, if I don't have phone access or something, I've got them written down to a T. And I think the other part too was anything you can't do or you know you're going to get behind on, you got to prioritize and then ask somebody for help. And that's what I did, with my husband on certain stuff and my PR manager and agent. It's like, help.
Wow. Okay. And not like you got the old school, the notebook, because a phone could die, like a computer
Oh
could
yeah, I've
die.
I've had that happen. So I've just learned to always carry those. And also when I did IT and cybersecurity work, you couldn't have your cell phone in there with you.
My next question is, how did it all start out? Did you know at a young age you wanted to be in the entertainment field, and
Yes,
how did
I
it start?
definitely did. I think it was probably about 6 or 7 years old. I became really fascinated with how they made movies and different shows. And I would just always constantly try to record stuff, or I did like little kid talent shows, even though I was really shy. And I still kind of am shy now. It's different when you're on camera. You become that character, so you can pretty much erase your shy side then. And I think it was probably about age of 8. I started doing theater, which the first play, if I remember correctly, was Don't Smoke Pinocchio.
Wait, hold on. What was that about?
Pinocchio apparently got caught smoking a cigarette, and all of his little friends and students had to tell him why not to smoke. So, in a way, the play was like a PSA to elementary students. Where we were telling Pinocchio, this is what happens when you smoke, Pinocchio. You're going to miss your assignments. You're going to get sick. And I was just like, that's Pinocchio. Okay.
Was his lows like growing as he like? No, I didn't smoke that.
It
I
did.
didn't.
It did. They have like little mass change outs for them. And I remember after that, I ended up doing more theater back like I think it was high school as well. In middle school, I even did on TV contests. There was one called Bookorama. I still have the original VHS tape. I still have it, and it still works, where it showed us competing on TV about becoming a book character. And we had to tell our story to the audience from the perspective of the main character. And the one I did for that would have been from Chasing Redbird. And I played Zinnie Taylor. So that was an interesting little twist there. I took 5th place for the county, and I remember I took 2nd place for the middle school I was at. And then high school, I started jumping more plays. And then eventually, in my early 20s, I did community choirs and beauty pageants. Even though I'm a total nerd, it's different when we have all the makeup and hair stuff on.
Yeah.
I ended up doing more theater, and just for a while, when I was doing also background extra work, which I originally found that on Craigslist, which is not the greatest place anymore, but that's where I first found background work and reenactments. And I built my way up and took a little break from acting when I got sick for a while. And I ended up going to college to get my cybersecurity degree. So it's a weird one, but yeah, I have a master's in cybersecurity. And I started missing the film world too much. And so, with my agent's help and stuff, and then myself looking for stuff, I also teamed up with a PR manager. I went right back into filming, and I finally left, the IT and cybersecurity role behind about a year ago because trying to juggle 70, 80 hours a week was getting very difficult.
Yeah, I can
And
imagine.
you can do it, and trust me, a lot of people, I tell them, your first year or 2, you may have to, because making that transition from a regular job and making sure you have steady income coming in, while you're trying to do those projects isn't easy. And eventually I got back into that full time. But of course, with the holidays, I'm doing about 60 hours right now because I know you saw that both of the films premiered. And then I've been on that cartoon show and stuff, and then getting writing work done, which one of my books is with, I just came back from the editor now. So it's been a little crazy.
Yeah. Wow. And yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, the one of the is Carolina Mine, right? And with that one,
Yes.
you wrote, produce, and you star in it. Wow, like you're heavily involved. Man, how is it to? So, is this your first film that you wrote, produced, then?
For full film, yes. I for a while, for a couple years, was writing like individual shorts that went into that unnerving anthology, which was one of my earliest projects. It's very cheesy because a lot of it was volunteer in the beginning until we started building a budget. So that kind of gave me an
Yeah,
idea how to start writing scripts. And I met up with mentors over the last few years where I actually go to special networking conventions for script writing, meeting with producers, distribution, and those mentors, including even voiceover ones, and even for acting, because I love being in front of the camera, so my agent gets me a lot of that stuff. But I wanted to try my hand at putting an actual film together. And I remember one day I actually saw a news story about a young woman that actually does leave with her professor to go to this camp that gets raided. And it's always such a taboo subject, professors with the college students. So I decided to advance on that storyline, and I took some script classes of how to actually completely write a script because I used to put everything down the middle of the script, and you just like, I'm a line like this, and you never put your full actions or anything. And so you just saw somebody was writing just a regular little piece. Terrible. But that was the best part about getting mentors is they will sit and talk with you. And if you go to those networking events, I did some in Kentucky, Tennessee. I met writers from Hallmark Channel, GAC, ones even from Netflix, where they're like, yeah, you're going to start somewhere. They would sit us down and show us how to properly actually write a script out. And then after Carolina Mine, I was like, well, like if I can do a drama, I'm like, let's step it up a notch because I love horror comedy and Christmas. So a friend of mine, Joe Kamara, I saw him in a photograph as a vampire, and I had already worked with him on Carolina Mine. I was like, I could probably make a fun little vampire off his picture, and I decided to give a twist to all the vampires theories out there.
yeah, and that's the other project, right?
And that one just premiered, and right now the streaming for that is pending as well. And both films have been greenlit for sequels. And I've got a holiday one that's on board as well, and then a one about a Grim Reaper that I'm doing.
Yeah, because Carolina Mine is on Amazon. It's on the streaming services. How do you how do you approach from being the actress to actually being the producer and the filmmaker? Like, how is that? How are they different? How do you approach both?
It's definitely a crazy wild thing, but I tell people you should learn it, whether you end up being in your own film, even a cameo, or if you decide, just to put the film out there. The way I had to learn it is like, okay, who's going to manage the budgets? Who's going to put this stuff together? Where are you going to get your funding? It's like I've done a ton of volunteer stuff. Every now and then I'll still help people with volunteer. But if this is your career, you have to learn to actually be able to get, the funding in for your projects to actually make the money for them. So I had to look at it as part of my career advancement part. That was the first way I approached it. And then from there, it's like, okay, if I'm going to be in charge of bringing in the funding, who do I need to start, going like, who's going to handle equipment? Who's going to show me? Who's going to do directions? Who's going to be, whether it's music, editing? Because it's good to still learn aspects of each section, which I did. And I'm still learning more stuff today. But you have to be able to build that team with you because part of that team is going to follow you for your next project and your next one. As you keep growing, you'll still bring more people on. But if you approach it, I always tell people, remember, this is your career. Don't Don't think of it as this is you're still in your mom's basement and this is just a little fun thing you're doing. It can be fun, which that's the main part. You want it to be fun. But just remember your goal is to eventually bring money in so that way you can get investors and you can get product placements, sponsors, and you can get more stuff on top of what you're doing.
And you can
And it's
kind of
great to
tell, like,
bring in for
you're
tax deductions. Tax deductions.
there we go. So you guys are getting the game right now, and I could tell like the IT analytical side of you right now. Awesome, man, and I think people like artists, like for me, I also as a musical artist, we want to do music, but you also have to know it's a music business, and then
Yes.
also the things that the ins and outs, the stuff that you don't know eventually will be costly. Like I know with a couple actors and movie makers that I know, there's distributors out here that are sharks and people that promise you
Yes.
the wear. And I've heard like the horror stories.
And I've heard some where they've had to drop like $20,000, $30,000 for stuff for distribution. And one of the things that I learned also in business management and also from my accountant and my PR manager, some things, that they ask was like, okay, if you're going to spend this much money to have this person do this portion, what are they giving you in return? What is it hitting? Are they doing any of your marketing? If not, even though regardless if they're doing the marketing or not, you should still market, of course, yourself because you've got to have that extra boost. For some original people that reached out to me that I actually declined some of the offers because they were terrible. Like one wanted a 10-year contract. And that meant basically they would hold full licensing right to my film on all US territory for 10 years. I was like, no. I said, I may have been at that time semi-new. I was like, but I know I can get a better deal. So I kept researching like Marriage Bites. I know the same thing for the offers we get. I'm looking at, okay, who's going to control these countries? Who gets a US? But most of my licensing right now, I keep 1 to 2 years because that is a standard. And there are even a few out there that will do like a 3-month trial if you find them. And I found one. So I sometimes kind of consider them where they say, well, if you don't like the deal that I get you, you may cancel your contract after 3 months. And I was like, that's not bad, actually.
Yeah, you get to see how the relationship is and be
Yep.
like, you know what, I'm taking
And,
my stuff and
and the
going
biggest things
elsewhere.
I asked them too is I have a little breakdown that my PR manager helped me put together where it asks them certain analytics. Like we want their track record. If we can't find you online anywhere, then we need to know, okay, what do you have that you're not showing us? If you do have films out online, all right, what's still, how fast did they get picked up? Where did they get picked up? What percentages are we talking about? How often do they pay? How many years do they want it? And then some even want, a certain percent up front, which is understandable in some cases. But at that point, as I mentioned earlier, if they're going to do an upfront fee, it's then, okay, what are you going to give me in return for this upfront? And that's the biggest thing a lot of people miss is they'll just toss off to anybody that's like, yeah, I'll put it on my platform. I had someone also that offered, and when I went to the platforms they were saying, I was like, well, I can get those same ones. And then he had one extra. He said it was an entirely different platform, and that thing had maybe 40 followers. I was like 40 followers is not going to get it seen. I'm like, if you've been on a streaming site for 10 years and you only have 40 followers and under 10,000 views, I'm going to be scratching my head at you and be like,
Yeah, that means nobody's heard of that. That
yeah.
platform is
And the
not
other
even
part too,
niche.
a lot of people miss is the paperwork. You've got to have your licensing, especially for music. You've got to have that up front because some of the distribution, especially the legit ones, they will ask you for those documents. If they're not legit, they'll generally just be like that. They're just like, oh, yeah, just sign this. And that can get you in a lot of trouble. And it's the same with doing your copyrights. And thank goodness for my accountant. They will do tax deductions of everything. And between them and my lawyer, they all review documents with me. And they'll tell me right away what's a red flag.
Well, that's good because I know part of my like the streaming services is, but as far as music licensing, TV placements, movie placements, that's for a lot of artists like myself, that's the bread and butter.
Oh, yeah.
And another question, you also do voice acting. So when I think of voice acting, I think of Cree Summer and I think of the smile with your voice. And in my mind, voice acting. So in the Navy and even in my professional career, air traffic control. So I talk to pilots And I just remember when I was stationed in the San Joaquin Valley, it gets very foggy and the pilots listen to your voice. And it's like, you got to give that pilot the warm and fuzzy because he can't see anything. And he is relying on you to land them. Voice acting sounds hard to me. How do you approach voice acting to regular acting? And is it harder or?
I kind of see it's about the same level. There's some differences to it, of course. You're not going to be on camera unless you are actually doing like a live session recording, which I've been in those. And what happens is you'll see the director, producer, maybe other actors and part of the animation team actually on the camera. So they're watching your face the whole time. Like when I did the cartoon Paka Paka, I think they're almost at 2.5 million views for that cartoon so far. When we were in the sessions, they actually would watch my face. So doing like a cartoon, you try to match what they're showing. That is the hard part. If they actually send you video ahead of time of the animation they've done, you'll watch it while you're working with them and you're trying to match every way the character is speaking.
Okay.
Because I know like watching the alpaca when it was in black and white, that was pretty cool watching her doing her sketch like this and her mouth's moving. I'm like, okay, got to imitate her mouth to match the. And if you added something new, improv, you had to have permission with it on a cartoon because that meant then the animation company had to change that scene. They had to go back in and shift it. And if they didn't want to, then of course, you had to go back to it. Now, if it's for like video games, I do some for AFK Journey, Lost Lands X, and a bunch of others. They're a little bit easier because most of the time they'll just send you a picture of the character and they're like, hey, this is your inspiration. We'll point to some areas that we want you to listen to for the general idea we want. And that is part of your homework. You'll be watching all the different shows out and be like, do this. And you're like, okay. So those ones are easy. PSAs I've done. I've also done commercials. They're very easy. Give you a simple script, 30 seconds, and you're done. Downside is a lot of times you don't work with the other actors because they could be recording all over. I've been in the studio a few times where I could record with the other team members. But yeah, a lot of time it's easier to get us at home so that way it saves them studio cost. And as people saw, like when COVID hit, no one could
I was
go
going to say.
there. But
I saw I was thinking COVID. Yeah.
Yep, so I have a booth. Let's see if I can try to shift it and you'll see a giant thing. Yeah, you see that giant thing coming into view?
Yeah.
That's a hidden booth behind me.
Wow. And I just remember like, certain cartoons or movies, they'll show you the background or like behind the scenes and you'll see somebody in the booth and da-da-da-da-da-da. Oh, like the donkey, Eddie Murphy, the donkey.
Yeah,
Shrek.
I love him. And some voiceovers are easy as crud to do. I've had some literally that took me maybe 30 seconds to record. And if they didn't want me to edit anything, I sent it to them like, here's your 3 choices, good. And they're like, okay, sold, done. That was it. You were done. I've had some that we would record in a booth for hours and you're coming out of there struggling for air and just like, you're like air and your mouth is dry.
Yeah.
And you may get some clients too that have very specific things you have to hit and you may have to redo that line over and over. An odd voiceover I do every now and then is, I can't say which ones because the NDA, but I will sometimes voice smart appliances and provide voices for train stations. Because where you hear them say, now leaving on track 5.
Yeah.
They get a lot of our voices for that. And I've had to re-say lines 50 different ways to match a smart appliance.
That's pretty cool. Airports since 2013, they have had the same woman for like TSA. And I'm just like, wow, I've heard this voice since 2013. They need to update this voice.
And the other issue you can get with voiceovers is if you got to soundproof, because sometimes you have to send your footage what they call raw, where you don't do any editing to it at all. You can't use noise plugins, which sucks because I love those things. So I have extra foam padding I put in my booth until I can build this really awesome wood one that's like $20,000. But the one I have is like $500 one, which works.
Yeah.
Just soundproof and make sure your recording software has noise plugins, especially if they tell you can use them. That is my happy thing.
Sometimes they won't let you use the noise canceling plugin.
Well, and then the reason why is some of them want it very raw, so that way they can do their own type of editing to it.
Got you.
So they have to keep it that way because some plugins can alter the way you sound actually going through. And they showed me in a neat frequency test I had to do with the client. They're like, see here? They're like, this is where it changes. This is where you change. And I was like, oh, okay.
That makes sense because I know with music, doing music production, you know, you send stems. And if you send stems with like the plugins, it's like,
And
I don't
it
have the
can
raw
also
stuff.
do like a straight line clip if you ever seen it where it may not let you hit the pitch and it thinks it's just an extra noise. So then it cuts you off
Gotcha.
there.
Oh yeah. Wow. And then you're also an author. What books have you like, what is in your catalog?
I write a mixture. I love doing anything from kind of, what do you call it, like suspense type drama, followed by Christmas. I don't know why, but Christmas comedy. I'm not big on watching Hallmark movies back to back. Sorry, Mom. But I do like writing them. So my very first book was done probably about, I've been initially writing since I was a kid, but the first book I was probably about 20. So almost 20 years ago. And it was kind of an R.L. Stine inspired type when he used to write the Fear Street series, where it was always who did it type, you know, who was the killer all along. And there was always that weird twist at the end.
Yeah. So out of acting, voiceover, directing and producing, author, what is your favorite, or what is the foundation, the one that you always love?
I know when I'm on camera, I love becoming these different characters and I can actually see it, and I get to use my stunt experience, and I've been in kickboxing 5 years and I also do gymnastics training. So it's fun getting to do those and being on a studio set. So that one, it's tricky. Writing, we get to have more creativity to it in a way, I think. Voiceover, I'm starting to love more and more because my primary focus in voiceover is cartoons and video games. And this one is pretty funny, at least to me, but I like to torture my husband a little bit. Whenever he plays a video game, I actually ended up in a video game he knew one time, and he stopped and he's like, "That's you?" I was like, "Uh-huh." He's like, "Great." He's like, "Great." He's like, "I get to hear my wife even more." And I was like, "You can only block me out so
He's
much."
like, I'll put the video game on mute.
He was just, yeah, he was like, oh, he's like, "I'm proud of you." He's like, "But my game," I was like,
Oh, that's funny. I also have I have a video game podcast for 40 something gamers, man. If you would ever love to get on that, that
"Sure."
would be pretty
Yeah,
awesome.
I actually also do nostalgic video blogs and video game blogs. So you'll see, like, on YouTube, there's over 500 videos. I do comedic walkthroughs of like indie horror games and stuff all the time. So you get to get the facial
Okay.
reactions.
All right, then. Okay.
But they're fun, definitely. And I've met some cool people both on the film side, the writing side, and as well on voiceovers. I met D. Bradley Baker. They used to voice Olmec in Legends of the Hidden Temple and does stuff for Star Wars. I also met Billy West, that's from Futurama, was Doug, and he was the Red M&M. And
Wow.
like
Okay.
me, he had a lisp, and we learned to hide it from like speech therapy. But in voiceovers, we get to let it come full blast if they want it.
I was gonna say I didn't even know you had a. Okay.
I had 6 years of speech therapy to hide it. But there's been an occasional project where they actually asked me to bring out a lisp, and I was like, "So you want me to forget everything I learned in speech therapy?"
Here you go. Man, and I just in my mind, I just feel like voiceover is like real isolated, and maybe that have been the least favorite. Like,
It can be, and that's why it's not like the top of my list, because if you're not in the studio with others, it does get kind of lonely. You go in your little booth and you're just like this. You're like, record, you become your character, turn it in, and that's it.
yeah, because like after COVID, I didn't want to do music. I didn't want to be in the studio.
Well,
I'm
but
like, I
the
want to
good
be
part
out.
but the good part with voiceover is a lot of times, as I was mentioning earlier to you before we started, was that it runs through the entire end of the year. There is no drop off because a lot of
Yeah,
your clients are out of country, especially if you can record from home. And like when COVID hit, it was great with voiceover because they found out I had my own spot at home. They're like, "Oh, we can't get anybody in a studio, but you can do this from home." I'm like, "Yup."
that's true. Yeah, because like Hollywood shut down, and you were still
Oh, yeah.
working, and then even now,
I think
Hollywood's kind of shut
voiceover
down.
alone, I've done over 1,000 auditions in voiceover because it gets competitive. It does. I think my favorite audition I had for voiceovers was for the Path of Exile 2. That one was pretty neat doing that. And there's definitely some cartoon movies I've gotten to compete with, but you'll compete hard. Their small ones are easy that a lot of people can get on because right now they want every kind of voice. They want every kind of voice. Doesn't have to be kid style, but apparently they book more if you can do like kid voices, and that's one of my specialties is I become a child and stuff, so they don't have to worry about hiring a kid. And that was another person I loved was meeting Cheryl Chase. She's the voice of Angelica Pickles. Yes.
Okay, okay. I remember
Very
Angelica.
sweet
I gotta.
lady, and so I had to do kid voices for projects where see if I can get one of the ones I've done. Mommy told me I'm not supposed to do that, but I think it's okay. I mean, it's great.
That's cool.
It gets around child labor laws and makes it easier in the hours.
Okay. Wow. Like yeah, because like Cree Silver, like I said, she's in like gang of cartoons as kids. And then Angelica Pickle, I just remember her, she was like real evil. But you said she's a nice person.
She's an extremely nice person, very sweet. And she even has blonde hair like Angelica, not as long, but she does have blonde hair.
How is the what I was gonna ask you is like, how is it auditioning for voiceovers? Like, okay, I'm giving you an MP3 of my voice. Do they give you like, this is what we want you to do? Is it in person, not in person, or is it like a combination of both? How's that process?
I've seen pretty much, if I'm not mistaken, I think 95% of mine has been online auditions.
Okay.
Where whether it's one I find on my own or the agent reaches out, they'll give you basically, most of them will send you a miniature portion of the script. They'll give you a general idea what they want. And then I've had a small group where they said, just give us something related to this. And I was like, related? And I'm scrambling online, like trying to research, like, what do they mean related? I'm like, what do they want? And those ones they can be hard because some of them will tell you one take and that's it. But I think when I did the audition for Paka Paka to become Gertie, where she goes, Skitter! Ugh, brothers. They actually let me do, I think, like 3 different takes. So that was really helpful because I was able to do the voice they wanted that they were hoping for, but there was another voice I gave them that they ended up using that voice instead that I thought would be better to suit the character. And if it's like PSAs or commercials, those ones are a little bit more trickier because if they ever say they want you to be just conversationalist, it turns out half the time they don't. And you're just like, what do they want?
Wow, that's funny. No, we don't want conversation. We want, that's funny. Just in my mind, it's like, we want you to be a gangster, but can
Well,
you
and
be
it's,
more
yeah,
gangster?
just like they're trying to, they want you to explain something to, the consumer, but they want it to be conversationalist, but they're at the same time like, you got to be able to make sure you sell it. The other hard ones was I had one that gave us literally a 50-minute deadline to turn in when the audition flew in. I was
Whoa.
like, okay. And if they ever want accents, I will. And if they ever have locations I can't pronounce, I'll sit and watch tutorials online of people with the actual accent saying the word over and over to hope that it stays in my brain for 5 minutes to get it out.
Yeah. And then like, I just thought about like the voiceovers for like medicines, and then they got to do the side effects.
Yep, where it's like, common side effects could include diarrhea, death on arrival. Please don't hesitate to tell your doctor if there's any of these concerns that come up.
Yeah. So have you done any of those? Or?
I've done one of those. Yep.
Okay. I like that. Oh my goodness. That's crazy. And then like out of all the genres that you've done, what is your favorite genre?
For voiceover or on camera?
Both, like on camera and voiceover.
I used to love drama more, but I'm really getting into stuff with comedy.
Okay.
Especially if it can be like kind of horror comedy, it's fun. But if it's for voiceovers, I would say definitely pure comedy. They just make it fun because like the cartoons, you get to get out there. If it's those medical commercials, they pay well, but you will get a little bored trying to say all the
Yeah.
medical terms on
Yeah.
screen.
I can imagine.
On screen, I would say either Christmas or definitely horror comedy. Horror comedy because you get to push the envelope. You get to see what practical effects they make, and you get to try stunts. So that's been something really fun getting to do those.
And because it's weird, like you're very artistic, you have a lot of energy, and a lot of IT people I know are kind of like closed off. They look
We're
away.
nerds. We are.
Yeah. And
When I'm
that's,
home in downtime, or if I have to do some events, if I don't know the person right away, or if it takes me extra longer to warm up, I'll be kind of like this and just like, "Mhm." But it helps as kind of a nerd because we also can create those characters. One of the things I had to learn with going on camera was basically the way, I think it was an acting coach, they told me, they're like, look at it this way. They said, someone is paying you to be somebody else. They're like, so just become that. They're
Yeah.
like, it's not you, it's the character. So whenever I had to do something really crazy on the camera, at first I would be shy. And that happened my first few years because there was like some lines I was laughing too hard to say out loud. And being raised as a Navy child, we were kind of reserved. Like you were told not to say this, you don't say this. So when I had to say like curse words, I'd be like this, like, you want me to say that? And trying to get the word out. And I was like, and when I finally said it, I started laughing and I was like, I'm sorry.
Hey, Navy Brat question. What was your favorite duty station or favorite place that you've been growing up being a military brat?
It's a toughie. I kind of still, even though I don't remember it, I think Virginia probably was the better place because you had the beach right there.
Yeah, yeah.
Meridian, I remember a little bit more, at least from the neighbors, because when I was doing like the daycare, it was with a lady that did in her house. Her name was Miss Mary. So I think that would have been a fun one for that one.
Okay. Yeah, we lived in Guam for a little while. I thought that was cool, being on the little
Never
island.
got to do the out of the country ones. I would have loved to though.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think that's the only one we've done out of country. But yeah, that's pretty awesome. So Meridian, Mississippi, that had a
Mhm.
naval air station there.
Yeah, there
I
was a
wonder
naval
if it's
base.
still okay.
Mhm.
Okay, very familiar with that. Um, So Ashley, thank you so much for being on the show. And I definitely we'll set up 40 something gamers. My co-host will get a kick out of it because that's pretty awesome. You're in a video game. But the husband
And
part
the
is
truth,
funny. He's like,
yeah, it's because you know how they like to joke that the spouse wants their time away from the spouse, so they put on their headphones to play their games. And
yeah.
when your spouse randomly pops up in there, they're just like, it's like, really? I'm just like, "Oops."
And you probably had like Indy, you couldn't tell him, right? And
There was a few that I just didn't want to tell him because I wanted to see his
see his
reaction,
reaction.
where he's just stop and
Class.
scratch his head, like, why does that sound familiar? And the hilarious part with him, too, is some voiceovers I'll tell him when I'm fixing to do record. I'm like, please ignore the screams and the odd noises coming from my office. I'm
Okay,
like,
because
just,
you
well, because I've had some where you hear me scream, or I would actually say some of the craziest sayings. I remember another one I had to bark like a dog and meow like a cat, and it set off our cats. And he was just
wow.
like, are you okay in there? I'm like, sorry, meowing for an audition.
It'd be funny you guys have like company. Oh, she's working. She's auditioning.
My neighbors have heard some odd stuff before, but they know us well enough where they're just like, oh, she's just working. It's okay.
Oh, that is awesome. Question. What does 2026 look for you? Just basically shameless promotion. Where can people find you?
Fun part. Well, we know definitely that Carolina Mine is out on several platforms right now, from Amazon, Tubi, Fossum, Relay, Apple TV, and it's got more coming, including DVD. Marriage Bites just is premiered. It's going to be releasing the next few weeks. But of course, Marriage Bites has a website, marriagebitesthemovie.com. So we post a bunch of stuff there as well, and on the social media pages for both films and on the IMDb's. You can definitely also just Google my name, Ashley Hargrove, and tons of stuff will pop up. I have my own
Yes.
website, ashleyhargrove.com. I'm also on social media everywhere, whether it's YouTube, TikTok, IMDb, Instagram, Facebook. You'll find me floating around somewhere. Worst case scenario, if you can't reach me, my PR manager is GTK PR. They're pretty easy to reach. And the weirdest way people have found me is through my married name, which is Osborne. So that has popped up in a few random places. And then, of course, Paka Paka. You'll find that on YouTube right now. So you get to have fun watching me be a purple alpaca. And then I know I'm doing with Nicole Butler and them. Skate to Hell is fixing to premiere Desert Fiends 2. I returned to more horror comedy this spring, and I also have some Christmas stuff coming up. We have some new stuff with Paka Paka. I can't say what, but there is some stuff coming with that as well. And of course, more video games. Fun part, see if you can find me in AFK Journeys somewhere. See if you can spot me in Lost Lands 10. You never know where I'm going to pop up.
And I was just thinking, I was like, now I'm gonna have to I'm gonna be paying attention. Like,
I
oh,
had
I
somebody
know
that heard me go off in a commercial once I never told anybody about, and they're like, that was you. And I was like, you actually recognized me? And then the newest one, which is that kid one, is the Enchanted Paws family that you saw me posting earlier. I
Okay.
provide a voice on a kids program right now on Spotify. Play it's Cat Mom Luna, where it's like, "My, what did you do now?" But that's okay.
Wow. Awesome. So, ladies and gentlemen, Ashley is everywhere. And I'm now going to have to try to, okay, I heard her. I heard you.
It's like spot.
So, ladies and gentlemen, another great episode. And remember, like, subscribe, comment. Let us know what you think about this show. Think about this episode. This is Marquivas Nias and Ashley Hargrove signing off for another great episode of Deeper Than Music. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Awesome.